Hello my wonderful visionaries and welcome to the channel. Today I have a very special guest, Jordi, today, who will be talking about his game, Château, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Sounds great.
This is going to be the first of a series of interviews I'm going to be doing on the channel. This is a test bed, really. I love speaking to indie developers. I love showing a light on the trials and tribulations that a lot of indie devs go through, and this is something I'm very passionate about. So this is my first one. I welcome all feedback in the comments, and how are you doing, Jordi?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm really excited to kind of crack on and learn a little bit more about your journey, learn a little bit more about the game, the origins, and So to kind of start off, could you tell me a little bit about your journey, your background? Have you always made games?
I have been making games for quite a while. So like 10 years ago or something, maybe a little more, I started learning how to program. It was back then was Python, and it was because a friend of mine was really into programming, and he had just started learning it, and I looked at it and I was like, this is magic. This looks so fun, and I didn't understand a single bit of it, but I thought I want to try this. So I was really bad at it, and I thought, hey, you can make games with this. That's cool. So I started doing things in GameMaker, the game engine. Mm-hmm. And but in the meantime, I learned that like the game engine Unity was like the big people thing, that making games in that kind of meant success in my eyes. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I should learn that. But I was also just a really stupid kid, so like that wasn't gonna work. So I spent more time in GameMaker and less in Unity, and eventually those two kind of switched, and now I have a lot of experience in Unity, and I kind of forget how to use GameMaker. So I make everything in Unity nowadays. Yeah.
Have you made any like projects previously? Is this like your first big one? I know a lot of devs, from what I've heard, they usually say try and make 5 bad games before you make your first good one. So what's your experience like in terms of?
Right.
In terms of making, is this your first one or?
No, it's I've been like I said, the Unity thing has been going on for like 8 years, maybe 9 years or so, and I've made a lot of tiny, terrible games, like you said. And
any examples? What type of games have you made?
Oh man. So my last game that I actually released on Steam, that was my first Steam release, and that was called Dance Assembly. Looking back at it, it was a fun little game, but it's at the same time it's not a great game or anything. Where you would have like a basic skeleton character that you could have, like, he could do all kinds of dance moves. It was really fun, and you could use simple 3D shapes that would make it look any way you want. So you could have, for example, someone made a scene from Pulp Fiction within that game, right, and it just did a dance, and it looked like it was a Pulp Fiction scene. It was so stupid, but so fun. So that was a game that I made. That was pretty bad, but before that, a lot of the stuff that I made was like prototypes, half-finished prototypes. And then there's some Game Jam games that I did. So Game Jams, for those that don't know, are like you have a certain period in which you have to make a game based on a theme. And I did, for example, a puzzle game where you only press play or pause, and you have to put boxes in certain places and make sure that only the robots run into spikes and whatever, but the humans run into the boxes so they don't hit the spikes, stuff like that. So very, very tiny, stupid games that really help with learning game development, help with the process and all that,
Are there any game jams that you've entered that people might have heard of before?
So I did the game that I just mentioned was in the WoWie Game Jam. That's within the game dev community. It's pretty big. And then there's the Brackeys Game Jam, where my game actually got 3rd place out of several hundred people, which was really cool. And then there's the GMTK Game Jam, where I did a couple of games. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, the one that always sticks out to me the most is the GMTK one. Like that, that has just absolutely blown up now, isn't it?
It's crazy. There's so many. Yeah. It's crazy the amount of people that are part of that game jam now. It's almost overwhelming, but I still think it's really cool. The themes are always great. They're always the most fun.
I've seen quite a few of those on itch.io that got like into the top 10 or got covered. Have gone on to be paid games now.
Right. Some really good ones too. Rollerdrome is one of them, I think. I don't know if you know that one, but it's with skating and guns. It's so cool. And to think that came from a game jam submission, that always is such a huge motivation for people just like me. I mean, I too look at that and think, I could be one of those.
Absolutely. I think Bubba Was You as well was one of the really big standout ones.
Could be.
No, there's a couple, but I always find myself like, you know, when you play something and then you want more of it, and you're like, okay, there isn't an opportunity to buy and pay for this, and it's always great to see devs, you know, go through that avenue. So yeah, that's awesome. Great. Well, I wanted to talk about your game, right? That's why we're here. You've got a game that's coming out soon, Le Château. So can you give us a bit of an overview on what the game is and kind of what your inspirations were for it?
Sure. Yeah. So Le Château is it's a French title. It means the castle, and basically it is more a building experience than an actual game. So you don't have any challenges or anything. You have a tiny island and you have a bunch of buildings you can place, and you can make whatever you want. You can make whatever kingdom you want and just make it look as pretty or as silly or whatever you want. And the idea came from a game that I was playing called The Block, which is a tiny building game as well, where you're just creating just a little block of houses or whatever. And it was a super satisfying game. It was very chill, and like I said, very tiny. So it was just a matter of building for 5 minutes, and then you were like, okay, yeah, that looks cool. Okay, next game or whatever. And I was like, could I possibly do that? And could I do it in a medieval setting? And originally it was going to be for a YouTube video where it was going to be like, could I make this in 7 days? And I filmed the whole thing, and I was getting ready to edit it, and I was like, oh man, this is actually really fun. I want to continue working on it. And then I forgot to make that video for another year. So I kind of just made the game at that point. So so now you have so many more things than I originally imagined. You can have several world shapes, and there's weather, and there's moving characters and everything to make it feel a little more alive. But all it really is, not to undersell it or anything, but it is a building experience. That's most of what it is. Yeah.
And one of the things that really stood out to me was the art style. I mean,
right.
Where did that come from?
So I'm terrible at art. I suck at making anything with art, and that's why I usually stick to 2D, because I know someone that's very good at 2D art. But for this, I wanted to try to make this my own thing, but I couldn't figure out how to go about the art. And then there's this person that I follow on Twitter. His name is Kenny NL, and he makes a bunch of free assets. And I wanted to try and use some of his stuff, and he, by coincidence, he had a very nice medieval castle pack. So I was like, yes, this was made for me. I can use this. Yeah. And then I used it, and I wanted to make it look a little more original. So I tried using a special camera effect to make it look more pixelated, like it's almost like PS1 or PS2 era kind of game, you know. And those two things combined with some more saturation really makes it pop, I think. Rather than feeling a little dull or boring, now all these effects coming together really made it look like its own thing, like something you look at and then later be like, hey, I recognize that. So that's kind of the thing I unintentionally went for. Yeah. That's
really awesome. I mean, as well for other aspiring game makers, like knowing that, well, maybe like, you know, art isn't your strength, so find someone who knows how to do it and use that work, and you know, it's still your game. You still, you know, you've got the artistic vision, you know what you want for the game, but being able to kind of use other people's work in an effective way.
Right.
Yeah, it's,
no, that's
really
for sure. That's a thing that's a lot of people think that reusing assets is a problem. That you shouldn't reuse assets because either people will know or it will look lazy, something like that. And that's just not the case. Just use assets because they exist for a reason. People sell models for a reason. Or in Kenny's case, that he has a bunch of free models or a bunch of free 2D sprites. They're there for a reason. You can use them to prototype for sure, but you can also use them for your commercial project, depending on the license, of course, whose stuff you're working with. But they're there for a reason, so you might as well use them if they help you, because otherwise you're going to be spending so much more time or so much more money trying to make something you're maybe not even that happy with. And if you like the thing that you saw, then why not go with that? And I think that's something that developers should really remember. That's
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think, I mean, let's think of it this way. Let's say you were working with 2 other people and one of them was an artist and all 3 of you are working on the project. It wouldn't be an issue. But because you're a single dev, people go, well, you should be using your own art. And it's like, well, okay, but if I was working with one other person, it wouldn't be an issue. But because I'm like outsourcing that. But yeah, it's really good because the art style really pops. And I think what you've changed and how you've manipulated that is definitely, it's one of the things that really stood out, it's very, very clean, very simple to pass, and I think it's super effective. And it's one of the things that really stands out and pops about your game. And it's something that it's an asset that you got, right? And I would never have known, which is really awesome. So
I'm glad. Yeah, no, I'm very happy with how it looks. It's it does give the problem that it's the resolution that I do with the camera effect makes it that all the pixels really show, right? And while that is a really cool effect, it's also making it difficult for some parts of the game to be recognizable. Like, for example, I had the rock, right? And there's a rock thing you can place in the game, and people are like, what is this thing? What is this object? And I had to actually add a thing that shows at the top what you've got selected at that point, so people know what they're working with. But that was a struggle. I also had a frog animal added to a part of a thing you can place, and you could just not see the frog because it was too small for the pixelation effect. So I had to increase the size of the frog so it would match the size of the humans walking around. So now there's a frog that you can actually see, but it's the same size as every human in the game. So that it does come with its limits.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think kind of touching back on your like who this game is for, right? I've played about an hour so far. I've started to write my review for it, and one of the lines that I wrote down in my review, which I thought was really interesting, is that I would say it's less of a quote-unquote game with like challenges and more like meditation software.
Right. That's fair. Yeah.
Because I played it, and the soundtrack that you've got playing throughout, I just turned that up and I just kind of lost myself, and I realized I'd made a couple of different worlds. I'd messed around with the sizes. I'd gone through the achievement list, which is how you unlock new items to be able to place. And just in a really leisurely way, I was going through that list thinking, how can I do this in my own like creative way? Like, what does this look like for me? I mean, you've obviously got the rock achievement, right? Which right. I don't think there's too many ways you can do that.
That's a difficult one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, like put your own artistic flair on that one. But I definitely felt like playing it. It was very much. I wouldn't say it's more than like a palate cleanser, but it's definitely a game where you can definitely get into the zone and relax and not necessarily think too much and just build. And I think that's it's unique in its own way. I mean, you've mentioned that you've had games that have inspired this, but it's definitely one of the first games that I've played in this type of genre. Where there isn't this like pressure of micromanagement, or you're not trying to grow or build I've been recently playing Frostpunk, and that is stressful, right?
That's this game, but super stressful. That's the exact opposite of it.
Yeah, like I'm having to put children to work, and like there's sickness going through my entire little city, and this is completely different. It's definitely very zen. So yeah, wonderful. So in terms of your development, then, what would you say are your key learnings? Like, what have you learned coming out of this? Like, before you went into it, obviously you had this project that you were only making for a video. Now that you've finished it, what have you learned? What are your key takeaways?
So there's a couple of things. I think one of them would be I can't do it alone. There's a bunch of devs that can, just like the developer behind Stardew Valley. He can do most of it alone. That's because he wants to do it all alone. I know it took him 6 years as well. Right. And I mean, I could spend a lot of time learning how to make music. I could spend a lot of time learning how to make art. But I don't want to. I have ideas that I want to make and that I want to share with people. So I've learned, especially from this project, that you can make a pretty looking game by yourself without having to actually make the art yourself. Like I said, with the assets and the music, which was created by my friend Chteau. He made some incredible music that I could have only dreamed of. And like you said, it really puts you in that mood. It really makes you relax, and it adds so much to the experience. So I'm very happy about that. But that's one of the things that I really took away from this project and will take away and use in my next project. But also the fact that I know very little about optimizing a game. Just several weeks ago, I was stressing out because the FPS that you had when running, there's these different world shapes, right? The circle world, and you have the largest, the size of it, size 11. If you had size 11 circle world and you put the big towers on every single tile, it would stop running at some point. And I was freaking out about that because I was like, this is such a tiny game, how did I mess that up? So I learned a lot about how to optimize a game, and that's something I will definitely be taking away as well in the future, because that was scary. So yeah.
So you'd say optimization and then including other people into your work and having...
Yeah, and scope creep. I don't know, are you familiar with scope creep?
Well, yeah. I mean, could you explain your experience with it? That'd be good for viewers that don't know what scope creep is.
So scope creep is basically having an idea and constantly adding to the idea and increasing the size of the idea. So in the case of this game, it was very much supposed to be a medieval version of that game it's inspired by, which was The Block, and it would literally be a one-size world, and you have a bunch of objects you can pick, and you can place them, you can no longer remove them, and you have a very limited selection of items that you can place, and that constantly switches, so you're kind of forced to pick between those few selected objects. And I was making that, and I was like, cool, that's sick. I kind of want to add this, so I added a new thing where you could also remove it. I was like, okay, but what if I want to duplicate something, because there's quite a lot of things. So I added that. I added several sized worlds. I added cool animations for when you finish the build, which are like the most satisfying thing I've ever done, probably. I added different world shapes, and it constantly kept adding things, and that's when you get from a 7-day project to a 1-year project. So scope creep. For my next project, I have an idea. I'm gonna write down everything I want for that idea, and that's it. I'm just making the idea. If I want to later on, I can always add things after release maybe, but I now know, like, okay, scope creep is really a scary thing, especially if you want to quickly get a project done.
Did you set yourself a time where you knew you were going to finish the game? So when you decided that you were going to work on the project, and really build this out, did you have a date in mind, or have you just kind of been working on it and then, you know, got to a point where you're like, this is pretty much finished, I'm happy with it, and now I'm releasing it? Like, what was your planning process like?
I didn't really have a plan for actually releasing it, because after those 7 days, the game was playable. The game was in its most raw state. It was done. Mm-hmm. But I was, because of all the scope creep, I kind of kept adding to it and never considered, okay, now I want to release it, because the ideas kept coming. So at some point, there's this thing on Steam Next Fest, where developers, mostly indies, can release demos for their upcoming games. And mostly people advise that if you do that, if you join Next Fest with your demo, you should release your game a couple of months after. Not too long, don't wait too long, because then you're missing out on a lot of heat that your game got. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to be part of the October Next Fest, and I kind of want to release the game in January maybe. And then that didn't happen, so I tried, okay, February. And I told the guy, the composer for the music of the game, I told him, okay, we're going to do February. And then I was like, no, actually, I still need more time. I'm going to do March 11th. And then I told him a little bit, okay, I'm so sorry. I told you I wouldn't change it again. March 25th, promise. This time it's not happening.
Yeah, I think we're past that now.
Yeah, so that was a stressful time. But at some point, I made that decision of, okay, I'm going to go set a release date. And of course, it can change if I have to. But I don't want to change it too much. I don't want to go too far into the future anymore. I want to finish this project and be able to work on the next thing, because the game has been done for weeks now. It's only tiny fixes or making sure that the achievements work or whatever, but overall the game has been done for a while, and it's just a matter of marketing through a lot of videos. I do devlogs. But that's the main thing that I've been focusing on now, and just making sure that people care about the game when it goes up. And that's something I should have been doing for a while, but that's at some point it was like, okay, set a release date and make sure that I get everything done before that. Yeah.
Maybe that's something else you can take as well from your learning, is maybe starting that process after you've done the prototype. But
exactly, that's for sure, and that's what I want to do with the next project as well, because I made a video at some point talking like 6 or 7 months into the game, where I was like, so I've been working on this game, was supposed to be a 7-day project, here we are 7 months later, let's talk about it. And I should really have been starting that way sooner, because it will always help with Wishlists, right? When you are on Steam, you care about a game before it comes out, you can add it to your wishlist, or maybe if it's already out and you just don't have the money to spend yet, you add it to your wishlist. But what a lot of people that aren't in the game dev industry or whatever don't know about is that those wishlists help a lot with developers. And they help a lot with the visibility of the game on Steam. So you really want to gather as many wishlists as possible before the release. And my biggest problem here was that I started marketing it so late that I kind of missed out on a lot of those wishlists. And I feel like I should be doing that much better, and I know that as well now for the next project. So that's another massive thing that I definitely learned from this game.
That's a really good piece of information for anyone who's aspiring to make games, right? Is as soon as you commit to starting, and as soon as you commit to releasing something, start as soon as you possibly can. And a devlog seems like a great way to kind of build that community and really take it from there. So as part of your development, have you been working on this part-time, or have you been working full-time? Like, how's your schedule been? It sounds like it's been very busy.
Yeah, no, for sure. I do it part-time. I am actually a video editor for YouTube creators. That's what I do as a job. Thankfully, that's my times are pretty flexible, and in that sense that I am able to work on my personal projects. I also get distracted a lot by sudden bursts of energy when it comes to other projects. Like I've been doing something for a video now, and I'm like, oh no, I gotta focus on finishing actually and releasing this game that we're talking about now. But it's also like I'm suddenly very interested in this concept. So yeah, no, I do work on it part-time, and with that comes a lot of procrastination, but because I have a vision and I know what the goal is for the game and the project, I am able to work on it at least a couple of hours per week, and I try to, one evening a week is set to just be game dev, and the rest is basically like, if I have the time, I will work on my game or any other project for that matter, depending on what I'm working on. Yeah.
So that kind of leads me on to my next question. Really, is what are your goals for this game? Like, what do you want? Do you have financial goals to set you up to make the next game? Do you just want to have more visibility? Just create something beautiful? Like, what are your goals for this game?
Definitely the creating something beautiful. It's trying something different, right? Like you said, it's not really a game. It's more of a way to relax, more of an experience, and thus it's not for everyone. And I've noticed that with the marketing, that some friends of mine have played the demo and they were like, this is cool. I wouldn't care if it came out because it's not my kind of game, but this is very cool, and that is fair. Like I keep telling everyone, it's, if you're not into the cozy genre, if you're not into, if you need a challenge for your game, if you need the stressful thing, like you said in Frostpunk, if you need to make sure that your city stays alive, and that's totally fine, then this game is not for you. But if you are part of that niche community that really likes cozy games, that likes watching a world come to life, whether that's through cartoon characters or seeing an island with buildings where everything seems like it's actually alive, then you're part of that niche that would love this kind of game. And my goal with this game is to be attractive to those kind of players. And I do not have a financial goal or anything. I knew when I started developing this game and when I started pushing to get it onto Steam that this would be a harder game to market, because I am very much a comedic kind of person. I love comedy, and when I'm making videos I love just adding jokes and I love being silly. And this game is very, very cozy, and so it's so much harder for me to market it towards those people that like cozy stuff and not towards people that like funny stuff. So I knew that this would be much harder for me to promote. So it's, for me, it's very much get more experience in what that is like, and hope that that the people that really love this kind of genre, that they like this game. And as long as I can get that to happen, I'm okay with how things go. Currently, the game has about 900 wishlists, which maybe isn't the greatest thing you want as an indie developer, but it shows me personally, who had an expectation of like a third of that there's 900 people who might be interested in this concept, and that is very exciting. So yeah, I hope that it translates.
Yeah, no, I mean 900 is for your second release, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really good. I mean, have you seen kind of an improvement from your previous game? Have you found any people that maybe have played your previous stuff that have wishlisted this one?
Not necessarily. I think the previous game was very much a first time experience, right? Like for how does Steam work kind of thing. And so it was all for a single video that I did, and thus there was no build up in the marketing, and a lot of the people that bought it came from that video basically. And with this, there's a lot of people that have wishlisted it that don't know me, that have no idea about the stuff that I do, that have no idea about the videos that I make, and thus have no idea about that previous game. So I don't think they're coming from there. I think it's a totally separate thing in that sense. Yeah. So I feel like there's a part of the wish list that are from the community, and then there's a large part of the wish list that are players on Steam that think, hey, this is my kind of game. So that's cool.
Yeah, no, it is really cool. So you touched on earlier on about how you've got, other projects that are in your mind, right? Like you finally want to get this one done.
Yeah.
So you can work, you can start to focus on something else. I mean, can you tell anyone or tell us about what you've kind of got in the works? Is it a new game that you're looking at developing? Can we have any an exclusive first on the themes maybe, or
no, I can actually share this because so the next actual project, well, I'm also working on improving an already existing project that I somehow kind of forgot about, that I also had on Steam that did pretty well. I want to update that. But the next main project I'm going to be working on is, I said before, that game that I did in the game jam that got 3rd place. People really liked that game. People really enjoyed it. So that was made 3 years ago, and people have been asking for more levels since. And so the person I made that game with, I have been kind of annoying him for those 3 years, asking if he wants to continue developing it, and he finally caved. So we're going to be making a full release for that. So rather than having just one level, it's going to be a bunch of levels. And basically, it's called Greg's Mess, and it is a chaotic cleaning game. It's very silly, it's very funny. It's basically... you're playing as Greg, and you're in the first level that people have already seen and played. You're in this apartment, and your wife is coming home from a business trip sooner than expected, and you have to make sure that the apartment is just clean, just perfect, and you have to like make the bed, you have to rewind the TV show to the episode you were both watching at the time. Ooh. You have to cook, you have to shower, everything is dirty, you have to make sure that the cat doesn't eat the fish, and all that at the same time.
So much more stressful than
yes.
Le Château.
It's really the opposite in that sense, yeah. But it's a lot of fun, and because people liked it so much, it kind of gave me that feeling that if I were to make this a full game and put it on Steam, maybe on consoles as well, if I can figure that out, that people would, that a larger group of people would care in that sense, I think. And that's something I'm very excited about, because the project seems very exciting, much more up my alley in the marketing as well, because like I said, it's very silly, it's funny, so I think that could be a very fun game to work on and to share with people. Yeah.
And you have an audience as well that are already aware of it and
right.
are already asking for it, right? So
yeah,
that's always a good place to start, that you already have something like that with the exposure to move on to. Awesome.
I'm very excited.
So we've kind of gone through quite a lot of what I wanted to discuss today. I think we've kind of really touched on your creative process, which has been really interesting, and the stuff that you've learned along the way. So where can we find more about you? Find out more about you, like your socials. Where can we get the game? Where can we find out what you're up to, Jordi?
So the game can be found on Steam. The game Le Château. Like I said, it's French. You can find me on YouTube and on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. I'm still going to call it Twitter. I think with me, every other user. So you can find me on both those platforms as TheShelfman. And on YouTube, I make devlogs for the games that I'm making, or like one-off games that I'm making, and make devlogs on that. It's, like I said, it's very silly, it's very focused on comedy, but also interesting when you're into game dev. I explain things that I'm proud of having built, like little systems for my games, and try to make it as easy to understand as possible. And on Twitter, I usually just share the projects I'm working on, or the stuff I think other people are creating that's very cool. So so mostly on YouTube and Twitter, for sure. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I'll include all of the links. If you send them over to me, I'll put them all in the description so that we can Anyone that watches this, we can go straight to your pages and support the work you're doing, because it's I'm really excited to kind of play a bit more of your game, review it, and then definitely explore those devlogs and yeah, sounds great.
I appreciate that.
I think that's pretty good then. We're coming up to 35 minutes. This is the first one. So if you're still here, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Like I said, this is going to be the first of many, so I'm open to as much feedback as possible. Jordi's been a wonderful guest for the first one. You've been kind to me. But yeah, if you want to like, comment, subscribe if you like the content, any feedback in the comments would be much appreciated. And Jordi, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.